Tonight on News 5 Live, record COVID cases, 90% of Belize District's businesses affected, and prison goes on lockdown. Details of these stories and more coming up on News 5 Live.
It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call OnNet, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link. She taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made. Then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank.
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Thursday, January 13th. I am Sabrina Daly. On Wednesday, we shared information which indicated that Belize has reached a record high of COVID-19 cases. Deputy Manager of the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Central Health Region, Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, confirmed that yes, this is the highest wave and record to date in Belize.
We know that Omicron will cause a significant wave because of how transmissible it is. So definitely this virus is acting in the way we expect it with regards to Omicron. And that's why we had to come out with the statement to say that clinically, epidemiologically, we have Omicron in country because of how many persons are getting infected and how quickly, as well as how there was a slight change in the presentation of persons who were infected. Now, we've got to also keep in mind that we still have Delta circulating in country. And when you do test positive on a rapid test or on a PCR, or when someone from the Ministry of Health and Wellness calls you to say you're positive, at that point, we don't know if you have the original strain, or if you have Alpha, or if you have Omicron, or if you have Delta. But we've got to look at the evidence when we do our genome sequencing. And so far, we know that Delta was predominant up to the middle of December. And now, again, we're awaiting another set of genome sequencing to see if we can identify Omicron laboratory as well.
But this is quite a wave. This seems to, if we are to compare this current one with the previous one, this one has done all the rest.
Yes, definitely. We have 6,500 plus active cases currently in country. And we have been seeing between 500 to 1,000 new cases daily from the latter part of last year, like starting from the 29th, 31st, the 1st, we started to see the increase. And yesterday we had gone just to 878, I think the number was yesterday. So, and we continue to see cases in all our facilities countrywide.
While the new number of infections dipped for the first time this week to below 1,000, Dr. Diaz-Musa said that this is by no means a sign that the wave has peaked. In fact, as she explains, it could mean quite the contrary.
It is a bit too early for us to say for sure, because some countries, and in Belize, we've had some situations when we have a little dip and then a sharp rise a few days after. So it is definitely too early, but I must say that for the Belize district, from today and yesterday, we have been seeing a little less positivity rate. But I mean, you know, nothing for us to say yes, we're now improving from this wave. We've got to look at it over the next 2 weeks and really see what's happening with at our testing sites and at our clinics and at the hospitals as well, in order to say more that yes, we may have reached our peak and we're now going down. But other countries who have gone through an Omicron wave have described 4 to 6 weeks of cases going up and then starting to see a downward trend. For our country to say that we have recovered from a wave or from an outbreak, we need to have at least 2 consecutive weeks of a positivity rate of less than 5. So not that close to that number as yet. There are two charts that show positivity rate. There is a cumulative positivity rate, which is usually between, I think now it's between 9 and 10. And then we have the daily positivity rate, national. So this rate tells us nationally of all the tests being done, how many persons tested positive. So the denominator is all tests done, and then the numerator is the positive cases that we have picked up. So that is fluctuating right now. I think yesterday was 26 or 27. I think the day before was 29 or 25. So it is fluctuating between in the 20s presently. And we really need to get that down.
This evening, the Kobe Foundation announced that due to the spike in COVID cases among inmates and staff, the prison is going on full lockdown for the next 14 days. Families of inmates are advised there will be no visitation or cash deposited accepted, and no other business transactions can be carried out. Attorneys will not be allowed on the compound and will need to make an arrangement for virtual consultations. Kobe says this drastic action is being taken to prevent more cases from being imported into the facility and to aid in the healing of the infected. Earlier this week, Prime Minister John Briceño switched up several government portfolios, removing the embattled Michelle Shabat as Minister of Health and Wellness and replacing him with Kevin Bernard. But the ministry remains without a CEO. Following the departure of Dr. Daisy Mendez back in December, it was confirmed that former CEO in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Dr. Lesbia Guerra, a medical doctor, was tapped as successor. But that didn't materialize. Cabinet Minister Henry Charles Usher told News 5 that interviews are being held and an announcement will be made shortly.
For the CEO position, the Prime Minister is currently interviewing a couple of persons for those positions. I wouldn't want to name them as yet, but you should be hearing an announcement very soon for the CEO in health.
So what happened with Dr. Lesbia Guerra? As far as I knew, she was the person to take over.
I certainly would have wanted to see her take over the post as CEO. I think she did a very good job as the CEO of the Ministry of Natural Resources. She had the experience, she's a medical doctor, and she certainly understands what was happening. She made a private decision, a personal decision not to take up the post. I have to respect that. And certainly we as a government respects her decision to go back into her clinic, into her private practice. But it means we have to find somebody. Somebody needs to be at the helm as CEO in the Ministry of Health, and the Prime Minister has made that a priority to find that person as soon as possible.
Since Dr. Mendez vacated the post as CEO in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Cabinet Secretary Stuart Leslie has been acting in the position. And while we were with the Minister of Public Services, News 5 also asked him for an update on the 3 director posts that were created to usurp the duties of former Director of Health Services, Dr. Marvin Manzanero. As you may recall, back in November, vacancies came out for a Director of Hospital Services and Allied Health, a Director of International Health Corporation, and a Deputy Director of Public Health and Wellness. It is now 2 months later, but there's still no one in those posts. In short, Minister Henry Charles Usher says that it's a process.
When it comes to the filling of these posts, I think that, yes, we have to get them filled. There's a process to fill these posts. They have been advertised. There will be applications coming in. There will be an interview process as is required by the regulations. And the person that scores the highest is the person that's going to be hired for the job in these particular director posts. We need to set up the interview process very soon once we get all the applications in place. And then once a decision is made as to who will be the persons getting those positions, they'll be made public.
Coming up, are people out with COVID at your workplace? You aren't alone. Find out how the latest wave is affecting all sorts of organizations when we return.
Digi, the premier name in voice and data, is also the country's leading provider of innovative services and solutions for small business and enterprise. At DigiBusiness, we offer solutions, tools, and applications to support your business needs. Reduce costs, improve efficiency, and excel in a changing world where no idea is too big and no task is too small. From technology advising to design implementation and management, our team of qualified solution sales and specialists can develop a reliable and robust infrastructure, allowing you to spend more time on what matters most, your business. Visit us online to explore how DigiBusiness innovative products and solutions can help your business reduce costs and improve efficiency.
Keep your business running efficiently with computer products and accessories from Cellular World. We are the largest electronics stores in Belize, providing business solutions from trusted brands including Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Samsung, just to name a few. Our range of business PCs and electronics include desktop computers, laptops, desktop monitors, mouses, battery backups, smart TVs, and computer accessories that are backed up by warranties to keep your business always running smoothly. Call or visit us at any of our 5 Cellular World locations in Belize City, Belmopan, or San Pedro, and let our knowledgeable team help you to find the right solutions. Cellular World, low prices, more choices.
Taking its name from the venerable father of the nation, the George Price Highway stretches 77 miles from Belize City to Benqueviejo. Originally built in the 1930s, this cross-country highway system is the artery that links Belize to Central America at the western border with Guatemala. That connection facilitates overland trade, supporting Belize's economic development. Winding its way across the scenic countryside, the George Price Highway from Roaring Creek to Esperanza has been fully reconstructed to meet international standards, with particular emphasis on road safety. A shorter and hassle-free commute is best enjoyed when everyone obeys the traffic laws. To reduce the number and frequency of road traffic accidents, it means that a seatbelt must be worn at all times and the speed limit observed when traveling along the highway. It also means that pedestrians must use sidewalks and crosswalks where available. Buses should only board and discharge passengers at a designated bus stop. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. It begins with you.
The BWS app is here and is available for download from the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. BWS customers can use the app to view water usage and current bill, read your own meter, apply for new residential and commercial connections, apply for reconnection, make reports, contact BWS customer service, and much more. Download the BWS app today.
Belize Water Services, delivering water and more.
The number of businesses in the Belize district being affected by COVID-19 is alarming. Since the week began, we have been hearing daily reports of businesses closing for sanitization and testing. These range from banks to restaurants. It's a telltale sign of how widespread the infections are in the current COVID-19 wave. When we spoke to Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa today, she estimated that the current infections have infiltrated almost every organization in the Belize district.
For Belize district, we have spread in almost every organization. Most businesses, I'd say about 90% of businesses out there, especially bigger businesses, can say that they have at least 1 or 2 persons out with COVID at this time. So the spread is significant. But the important thing is not only to detect the positive cases, but for us to then, what we do after you've tested positive, you know, and what would the business be advised to do, or the schools? So, these things are very important because we know that with Omicron and with other variants of COVID as well, you can actually be infectious 2 to 3 days before you've even started with symptoms. And for that reason, we try to stress to household members that if your husband or your wife or your child became ill and tested positive, just stay in the household. You can open up your windows. If you have a big yard, you all can go in your yard, but don't move family members to other homes because that's where the spread continues.
And while it seems as if no one can escape this current wave, there are steps businesses can take to potentially prevent going on complete lockdown.
I think that most businesses that deal with the general public and have a continuous flow may have persons sick. And we know that from the beginning of January, we've had 1 or 2 banks who have had to close certain branches, and they've now reopened because they're spread. There are restaurants that have had to close, and other places as well that would have had to have shut down for 3 or 4 days until we could go in, test everybody, isolate the positive cases. But the advice remains that we know how COVID-19 spreads. The majority of times that persons are exposed, it's when at home or in close contact with friends or family without your mask. So you're eating lunch, you're sitting together for a long time. So we continue to give the work advice of not allowing any staff to lunch together. So you take your lunch at separate times. You eat apart, at least try to sit maybe 2 at a table, 6 feet apart if possible. Always keep your mask on over your nose and mouth when you're dealing with other colleagues and with the public as well. So these things we continue to stress, socializing and downtime is where we see infections occurring in businesses. But when you're at your desk or when you're working, it's less likely for you to have been exposed.
COVID-19 numbers are skyrocketing. It's the highest the country has ever seen since the virus was first detected in Belize. Belizeans are alarmed and wondering what will happen next. The big question is, will we go into another lockdown? Minister Henry Charles Usher told News 5 today that Cabinet continues to be advised by the COVID-19 task force, but that the country cannot afford to shut down or lock off, as was done in the early months of the pandemic back in 2020.
This Omicron variant has really changed the ball game because it's so easily spread. Luckily, it seems that we're not seeing as severe cases as before with the other variants. Certainly with Delta, we saw a lot of severe cases. We're not seeing that with Omicron, but it is spreading. So we have to continue to practice the safe measures, and that's what Cabinet stressed on Tuesday, to make sure that we continue to have these regulations in place, wearing of masks, physical distancing, sanitization of offices, washing of hands, and so on. It's important that these continue to be in place. But we also have to balance that with the economy, and we have to make sure that the economy remains open. Have to be safe, but we have to be open, and we have to have people working. We see a number of government departments being closed down because of this. Even the Ministry of Public Service, unfortunately, we had a minor outbreak, and so we decided to close for a day last week to sanitize the office. Thankfully, none of our workers are with any severe illness right now.
So given the COVID data, is Cabinet planning to institute a new statutory instrument to adjust COVID-19 regulations? Still in effect is SI 151 of 2021, which in early December had changed the curfew so it begins at 11 p.m. from Sundays to Thursdays and 12 midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. That SI expires on Saturday, January 15th. Minister Usher says not to expect any big adjustments in the near future, but keep practicing your protocols.
The medical task force made a couple of recommendations, not in terms of lockdown or anything like that, but in terms of, we know the Omicron came here probably either through the airport or some other port, and so they are recommending that the tests that are done, that the testing period is less. So in terms of the PCR testing, instead of 96 hours, it's brought down to 48 hours, the rapid test 24 hours, so that we can have a better idea if that person is contagious or not. Recommendations like that are coming forward, but certainly I haven't seen any recommendations having to do with any type of lockdown or so. But lockdown or not, we have to be safe, Dwayne. We have to practice our safe practices, and we have to be healthier as a society, as a country. Our people have to be healthier, because if you combine healthy living with the vaccine, more than likely, there's a very good chance you'll be safe. We have to continue monitoring it. We hope that we can see a burnout of this virus, that it just goes through very fast, so fast that it burns itself out. We're seeing other countries in Europe that have already reached their peak. South Africa just made a declaration. This was the origin of the Omicron. They've already passed their peak days and they're seeing declines in numbers now. So we hope we can reach that level as well, without any fatalities, of course.
In February, all visitors to Belize will be required to buy Belize Travel Health Insurance. The Belize Tourism Board states that the mandate is to protect travelers against medical and other expenses incurred if they test positive for COVID-19 during their stay. The cost will be $18 and the plan covers up to $50,000 in medical expenses related to COVID-19 treatment or a period of 21 days. It will also cover quarantine lodging expenses of up to $2,000. News 5 spoke to Chairman Evan Tillett about this new move.
Well, there's a new travel insurance that will be implemented on the 15th of February. It's an insurance policy that covers a visitor if they get sick in the country. The policy costs $18. You have a coverage of $50,000 for a period of 21 days. In terms of, it also provides trip cancellation coverage. So what it does is to protect the hotel sector as well as protecting the guests in case of the guests can't come and we are operating in a pandemic and an Omicron environment. What we are seeing is that in some cases guests test positive after they already spent their vacation. And the public health regulation says that it's at the cost of the visitor. A lot of times these visitors don't have the monies to pay for it. So having the insurance provides a level of coverage, a level of safety for the guests and for the industry. Belize is late to the game in terms of travel insurance. Jamaica has a travel insurance program, Turks and Caicos, Dubai, the UK. So it's nothing new for the tourism sector. Given the fact of the importance of the tourism sector in Belize being 40% of GDP, it's important that we protect our industry, we protect our locals, we protect our guests.
After the break, a drug bust at Half Moon Cay. But first, here's a look at the latest COVID-19 figures.
We have been a partner with Smart for over 10 plus years. We have a full Smart plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this Smart service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our Smart service, we pay an average of about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to Smart because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
Smart continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
Welcome to Brody's Pharmacy,
where our trained and licensed pharmacists have been serving the public for over 100 years.
Thank you. Brody's Pharmacy has the widest selection of vitamins and supplements that I need.
It's our mission to supply all your prescription needs. We take pride in our fast, friendly, and professional prescription services.
I am amazed at how professional these pharmacists are.
We are agents of all leading brands such as Fitzroy, Johnson, Denk, Carlisle, Quality Choice, Sophia, Pfizer, Dynarex, and so much more.
They have the highest quality medication in the country.
We keep coming to Brody's Pharmacy because of the extra care and attention we always receive here.
Excuse me, sir, can I help you with that?
Thank you, young man. See where we shop at Brody's Pharmacy?
We have 3 convenient locations in Belmopan, Belize City Albert Street, and 2.5 miles Philip Olson Highway. We also offer our wholesale services on all our medication. Come on over to Brody's Pharmacy for service, value, and satisfaction. Your health is our priority.
New Year's is a time for us to make hearty resolutions that will help us better our lives, and then promptly forget about them. However, there are some resolutions we shouldn't forget about. Join us for our new series, 100%, where we'll be talking about being 100% in on things like our relationship with God, our spouses, finances, and more. Tune in at 10 a.m. right here on Channel 5 Belize.
Who offers the best mobile experience in Belize? You don't know? Well, the truth is, Digi, our national telecom, of course. Digi has the largest mobile LTE advanced network with over 96% countrywide coverage, offering the fastest mobile LTE data speeds at the most affordable rates with mobile plans that fit your lifestyle. The truth is, only Digi gives the ultimate mobile LTE experience. Visit your nearest Digi store to join the bigger, better network today. Digi, our national telecom. Visit us online at www.livedigi.com.
This morning, sometime around 8:30, Coast Guard personnel on routine patrol in the vicinity of Half Moon Cay within the Lighthouse Reef Atoll came across a substantial quantity of high-grade marijuana. The tightly concealed packages, amounting to almost 32 kilograms, were afloat in an area that is frequented by tourists. It's a sizable haul with a street value of almost $82,000. But was the waterborne cargo destined for Belize or farther south along the Caribbean Sea? News 5 spoke with Lieutenant Commander Alma Pinello, who provided additional details on the seizure.
Reef Patrol conducting their daily routine patrols this morning at around 8:30 in the Half Moon Cay area came across something strange in the water. So prior to actually taking off on their daily routine, went to inspect it. It was about 100 feet off of the east of the dock there at Half Moon. And upon inspection, they realized that there was packs of some suspected drugs. And they were able to, because one of them had a hole in it, to identify it as suspected marijuana. Thereafter, they called it in, and we had one of our standby vessels head to Half Moon to get the commander that was in charge of the patrol and to bring him in order for us to be able to carry out chain of custody procedures and hand it over to ANU and to be able to properly weigh them. They didn't have a scale there with them at Half Moon, so we brought them to base not too long ago. They arrived here about 1400, and we did the process of weighing each of them. It ended up being at about 30.95 kilos, and it was 36 packs, and an estimated value of $81,705 Belize dollars. It was good because it was early in the morning. Half Moon is very populated with tourists, so we were able to get that out of their eye. But it was a good bust for us in terms of, when you think about the estimated value of getting that off the street, that is definitely a win for us.
There is a new development in a story we brought to you from southern Belize on Wednesday. The eldest son of a man killed in San Roman village has been charged with his murder. Police arrested 23-year-old Alvin Rivas after their investigations into the incident that occurred early Tuesday. A younger son told News 5 that their father, Amaya Salvador Rivas, had become violent with him and his older brother, Alvin, intervened, going after Rivas with a machete. He alleged there had been domestic violence in the home for some time, but the village chairman told News 5 the mother and sons had been reluctant to report it to police. The Belize Crime Observatory has released data from the years 2020 and most of 2021. Project coordinator Adele Ramos appeared on Open Your Eyes this morning. She said, as expected, the pandemic and its accompanying lockdowns and other restrictions had a strong impact on some categories of crime, causing a dramatic drop in some types.
Early on, after we had the lockdowns and what have you, we saw, for example, like robberies, burglaries, those types of property crimes going way down.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, it was expected. And also it is expected that with the relaxation of measures, you would then see an increase in certain categories of crime. And so knowing that, our policymakers and law enforcement could be proactive because you could predict certain things.
Yeah.
So the data is important in that regard, where we saw, for example, in the southern Belize for the earlier part of 2021, property crimes being more of a concern than they were previously. And so you saw where there was that response from law enforcement to be proactive, right?
Yes.
When it came to, for example, domestic violence globally, it was said to be like a pandemic within a pandemic.
Yes.
And again, there were proactive measures. We saw where a new hotline was launched where people could report not just if you are in this situation, but if you know of somebody in the situation, you can also assist. And so all these things together help to mitigate what we expected and what could have been really a much worse situation.
But Belize City remained a hotspot, and the Crime Observatory data is being used to help formulate a multi-agency response. Adele Ramos says, however, violence crime prevention needs wider community support.
The greatest challenge, I think, was with respect to violent crimes.
Yeah.
And, Belize has been struggling with this, not just today, but for over a decade.
Yeah.
Gang violence, and especially gang violence in the Belize City area in what are known as Precincts 1 and Precincts 2. And we had the states of emergencies in 2020, and then we had another phase this year. And what happens is that is a response to what is often deemed to be a situation that needs urgent intervention. Interventions can vary and interventions need to be multi-sectoral. And what we see now is that the agencies that can help to address the root causes of crime are being engaged and need to be engaged, and I think need to be engaged even more, and not just the agencies, but there needs to be a whole of society approach, because this is not just a problem for the police.
Yeah.
This is a problem for all of us.
Earlier this week, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams announced that ACP Richard Rosado, commander of Eastern Division, would be elevated to the post of Deputy Commissioner. Dr. Rosado's rise to head of operations and crime comes at a critical juncture for the Belize Police Department. But the public may know little about Dr. Rosado, aside from the fact that he is the first doctor of philosophy within the department. We followed Dr. Rosado on several meet and greets and have covered his work with the Leadership Intervention Unit. Tonight, News 5's Isani Cayetano shares this profile.
When Richard Rosado enlisted in the Belize Police Department in September 2000, he was 25 years old, a son fulfilling his father's dream of having all his boys follow in his footsteps in law enforcement.
I come from a family of police officers. My father was a police officer, All my brothers are police officers. In fact, I have a son as a police officer now. And it is something that, as a child, I recall my father used to say he would be the happiest person if all his sons become police officers. And hence, from childhood, I believe my father was grooming us to become police officers.
The journey to becoming the next Deputy Commissioner of Police has been a lifelong process of personal and professional development for Rosado, who is the first officer in the department to have attained a PhD.
I recall in 2008 when Crooks did his audit of the police department. One statement that caught me, and it was that he said that the Belize Police Department do not have managers that are educated enough to transform the police department in the direction it should go. And hence the reason I embark on trying to qualify myself within the police department to one day become the Commissioner of Police.
Dr. Rosado, who up until earlier this week headed Eastern Division, is a step closer to realizing that dream. On January 10th, an announcement was made by the Office of the Commissioner of Police that ACP Rosado will ascend in rank and will be responsible for operations and crime at the country level.
It was a very lengthy and tedious process to be able to determine exactly who is the right fit to ascend to the post of Deputy Commissioner. And at the end of it all, we agreed on ACP Rosado, who is the current officer commanding Eastern Division. That being the case, that will see him removing from officer commanding Eastern Division to take up the post of Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations in Belmopan.
His childhood and subsequent career in law enforcement have not been without trials and deep personal losses. Fernando Rosado Sr., the paterfamilias of the Rosados, was slain in the line of duty in 1978. At 4 years old, Richard was still an infant when he lost his father. Several decades later, tragedy would strike again. Fernando Rosado Jr. would also be killed in the line of duty, 2 weeks after celebrating his 28th birthday. Beset by grief, it did not stop Richard or his son from pursuing their vocation in law enforcement.
It was a journey, and educating myself, I can say that many people helped me along the way. In fact, I recall after high school going to the Ministry of Education one day to sell bread. When I met the Minister of Education, I think it was Said Musa, and he had asked me why I am not in school. And I told him that I was accepted to UB, but my mother couldn't afford it.
The then Minister of Education, Said Musa, provided Rosado with a scholarship opportunity to commence his tertiary education at the University College of Belize. In terms of academic pursuit, it would change his life forever. Interestingly, Karim Musa, son of former Prime Minister Said Musa, is now Rosado's political boss.
Yes, we do have a lot of excellent officers at the assistant commissioner level who could have been elevated and who are still being considered for the next elevation. But certainly for me, Assistant Commissioner Rosado stood out, and hence the reason he got the promotion. I've seen over the last year he has an excellent work ethic in addition to his experience, and of course his academics as well. He's very well qualified for the post, so I'm very comfortable in my skin in terms of the decision made.
Many are left wondering, however, what effect, if any, that decision would have on the work of the Leadership Intervention Unit. Along with William Dawson and Kevin Kittle, Dr. Rosado has been integral in working with at-risk youths.
I will still play an integral role in the Leadership Intervention Unit. I believe that if what the minister wants to accomplish within the Leadership Intervention Unit, if that work, and I'm hopeful, I'm confident, in fact, that it will work, because that they focus on addressing the root causes of crime. If that works, then the police department can concentrate on their mandate of making Belize a safer place.
At the moment, all eyes are on Richard Rosado as the heir apparent to the Office of the Commissioner of Police. It's in the offing. Nonetheless, the highest praise for attitude, performance, and vision is being heaped upon him by the Minister of Home Affairs.
That's all the way down the road, thinking in terms of succession, but certainly he's a good candidate for it. I have to say that out of the gate, that Dr. Rosado, in my opinion, would one day make a great commissioner as well.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.
Just ahead, Minister Usher responds to concerns from the LGBT community. But first, here's a weather update with data from the Belize Met Service.
Child Development Foundation, or CDF as we are popularly known, has been partnering with Social Security Board since 2015. Social Security Board supports our child protection initiatives. They support us to build capacity for teachers and parents to identify the indicators of abuse. In particular, they support our counseling center so that we can provide trauma-focused counseling therapy to children who have been abused. Social Security has also supported our prevention program, the Rise Girls program, to help us to equip young women who are in primary and secondary school to understand more about adolescent development and also to build good self-esteem and to build safe social networks.
Over the past 6 years, we have established a partnership with the Social Security Board. It has assisted us in addressing some of their social welfare needs and health care needs of our older persons, specifically in Belize City, San Ignacio, and Belmopan. We have had the opportunity to do home visits with our geriatrician and physiotherapists. We distribute meals to them. We also have that opportunity to interact with them, to observe them. There are needs that may be identified. If we can address those, we do so.
Social Security has been one of our biggest donors throughout the years, and the services that they provide to us is basically financial, and it helps with a lot of things here at the center, like bills and groceries. The center is a drop-in center for the mentally ill, elderly, homeless, deportees. They come here, they take a shower, they get their breakfast, they get their lunch, and they also do recreational stuff here at the center. They can watch television, they listen to music, they play games, and they just, interact with each other, because here it's like a family.
We all know the importance of running water and proper drainage in your home. That's why we rely on a fully functional plumbing system. At Benny's, we have all the plumbing supplies and accessories you need. Our pipes, fittings, valves, and adapters are made from durable quality materials. Remember to wash your hands with clean running water from your faucet. We have kitchen and bathroom faucets in various styles and finishes. Whether for installation or maintenance, make sure to use recommended PVC cleaner, solvent, and Teflon tape to fix or prevent leaks. We also have the tools to get the job done. For all your residential, commercial, or industrial plumbing needs, shop at Benny's. Celebrating 75 years of quality and savings.
Bringing people together has always been SMART's mission and passion. That is why we are proud to have built a locally independent quality network from the ground up that spans the country with over 100 sites. we continue to add more affordable mobile data packages, broadband speeds, and voice services to meet your personal and business needs. Smart has set the standard of true competition with the most competitive prices on all services offered. We invite and welcome you to join the Smart family, where the value for your dollar matters. Smart will continue bringing new technologies, more affordable prices, network expansions, and people together. Smart, bringing people together.
Today, the new Minister of Religious Affairs, Henry Charles Usher, responded to the LGBT group Our Circle. The human rights organization wrote an open letter to the minister expressing concern and seeking clarity on a statement made by him earlier this week about aligning public service with Christian principles. While it didn't sit too well with the organization, Minister Usher said today that there is no need for alarm. Usher says that even though he has not seen the open letter yet, as a government, inclusivity is still what they are aiming for, and no one will be left behind.
The Christian principles that I really were referring to were principles of respect, inclusion, hard work, family, service, putting others above self. Those were the principles that I really wanted to advocate for. And those principles are anchored by the main Christian principle, which is love, right? And those are principles shared by other religions as well, not just the Christian religions, but various religions, various groups. When it comes to the letter from the Our Circle group, I haven't received the letter as yet, so I was surprised to see it in the media last night. My only response was, let me look at your letter. I haven't gotten it, I haven't seen a copy of it, and I will respond to the letter. I am willing to meet at any time to discuss. Let's not prejudge the appointment. Let's not prejudice what can be achieved, because I think it's an important appointment. I think it's an important portfolio, and to have it aligned with the reform portfolio is very critical, because it's about creating a value system. It's about saying, what does it mean to be a Belizean? How do we want to see our country go forward? What type of laws do we want? What type of public service do we want? Do we want one that is effective, that treats everyone equally, that does not discriminate against everyone? And I am absolutely in favor of that. I can certainly sit down with Ms. Derisia and her group, sit down with the Unibam group if they want to have a discussion as well. As a matter of fact, I met with Mr. Orozco and his executive last year at the Ministry of Public Service, and we had a very cordial, a very frank discussion on how we can take our country forward, including everyone, and that's what this is about. It's not about exclusion.
Minister Usher says that there are various laws within the Ministry of Public Service that may come across as discriminatory, and so it is important to put in place the People's Constitutional Commission. The United Belize Advocacy Movement, Belize Trans Colors and Empower Yourself Movement, UNIBAM, has also called on the Minister of Public Service to correct what they say is his misrepresentation of the Constitution. A statement from the organization claims the current effort to establish religious affairs within his ministry threatens the progress government has made in HIV, sexual and reproductive health services, and the Sustainable Development Goals that promote the principle of leaving no one behind. They say Belizeans must never forget the attack on rights in 2012 by religious leaders that led to the removal of a health manual. They also reminded people of the 2013 organized marches that opposed the rights of women and the creation of a morality commission in 2016. UNIBAM says the minister has an opportunity to build bridges between communities that reflect equal protection under the law. They are asking for him to issue a statement of equality and human rights for all to ensure the TOR of the liaison officer is about equality, and to ensure that he engages all concerned about the intentions of religious affairs. In this week's cabinet meeting, the Prime Minister and his advisors were given the report of the Commission of Inquiry into the sales of government assets. According to the PM's office, Cabinet condemned the detailed reports of mismanagement, waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption, which they say, quote, have come to so clearly define the United Democratic Party government from 2008 to 2020, unquote. In addition, Cabinet has instructed that the report be submitted to the Office of the Attorney General and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for any advice and action deemed necessary. On Wednesday, the Prime Minister told News 5 that, quote, if there are changes to make, we will do so. We can't allow this kind of practice to continue, unquote. In other Cabinet news, Belize is one of only 2 countries chosen by the Millennium Challenge Corporation, an independent United States government foreign aid agency. The MCC supports micro, small, and medium enterprises to reduce poverty through growth. Belize stands to gain between $200 to $500 million in program funding over the next 5 years. The Minister of Education has reported that 570 schools have been approved for return to some form of face-to-face instruction. Of these, around 200 opened January 10th. The rest are scheduled to reopen by the end of the month. And Cabinet approved amendments to the plastics regulations and amended the dates for implementation of prohibited products. These will be phased in beginning at the end of this month and continuing through to the end of March. Minister Rodwell Ferguson is literally only 4 days in as the new Minister of Sports, but he has served in this capacity before under the Saeed Musa administration. He says his predecessor, Minister Kevin Bernard, already has a good system in place and that there is no need to fix what isn't broken.
There were previous plans within the ministry, and I now reinvent the wheel. I think Minister Bernard was doing an excellent job. Maybe it was not visible because we were in a COVID situation where you see no sporting activity, you see no movement with youths. But at 1 p.m. today, I will sit down with the senior people at the ministry and I will know what was their plan and see how I can now get into their plan. And if I have to improve the plan, we are going to improve it. I just spoke to a gentleman yesterday in Belize City. And he told me, Mr. Ferguson, you know what? The cricket industry is almost dead. And it might be a sport that people need to revitalize. And so I really consider his suggestion. And I believe, taking up the reign as Minister of Sports, I figure out how we can revitalize cricket in this country. It's a clean sport. It's a sport for the family. So that might be one way to go. We're going to try to work with the organizations around like the FFB to see how we can improve the quality of football, softball, any sport in this country.
No, we have to consider COVID because all these variants keep coming out and they keep limiting us in terms of contact sports. But in the midst of all of that, how do you still make sports thrive?
Well, no, the Minister of Health was the Minister of Sports. So I will guide it by by him. So he will give a directive and I will follow his directive and his instruction. Competitions are going on right now, but indoors. I'm saying that they can have a competition in a stadium, not outside of a stadium. On the 15th of January, it was to be open to have at least 50% spectators. But I want to say that the regulation, I think, is completed at the end of the month. So we are going to extend that regulation likewise until everything is expired. So hopefully by the 1st of February, we can say fans can now attend sporting activities with only 50%.
The COVID numbers have been rising since the latter part of December, and the guideline says we should be keeping our distance and follow other safety measures. But the seating capacity in the public transportation system remains at 100%. Today, Minister of Transportation Rodwell Ferguson says we just have to adhere to the safety measures at this time.
No matter how you say abide by 6 foot in distance, there are some circumstances where you have to figure how you happen. Because even if I say the buses, it was at 75%. If I say the buses go back to 75% for argument's sake, at some point in time, there will be 2 passengers in a seat. If I say 50% at the price of fuel, how the operator will make some money? We have to make sure business thrive in this country. When a bus leaves a terminal, everybody must be properly seated. Sometimes it's out of control when the bus leave the terminal and pick up passengers on the highway. So I will talk to my chief of transport officer that there should be strategic location where there should be a checkpoint to see if the bus still remains with the crowd that they left from the terminal. Because once you leave the terminal, it is out of the terminal unit control.
Minister Ferguson was also in charge of youth in 2007. Back then, he said he physically walked the streets of Belize City and tried to organize young people, listen to their concerns, and solve the issues affecting them. He told us a similar forum was already held in Dangriga on Wednesday. He says key issues for many young people often stem from the home.
So there was a get-together in Dangriga to hear the concerns of the residents of Dangriga. And how can you curb the activities that is going on? But number one, I will say it starts from in the home. The parents need to help the government, because every time we blame the government, but it starts from the family. If they can do our part, we can fix the society. What we need to do as a government is to make sure we create employment for these young people. The previous minister, I will give him kudos. About 2 months ago, he started an internship or a job on the training, job training program. And he was able to employ, I believe, maybe over 150 young people or more across the country and pay them a small salary of $150 a week. But at least he allowed them to get on a job and get some training, and those same employers might consider them if they do a good job and employ them on their premises. So we have to be very pragmatic and get the work done.
The Development Finance Corporation and the CARICOM Development Fund have entered into an agreement for a credit risk abatement facility. It is aimed at providing small and medium enterprises with access to financing for investments in energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies. Belize is now one of 5 CARICOM countries to have adopted the CDF's program, which will provide support for eligible projects ranging between $50,000 and $1.5 million Belize dollars.
It plays a big role because as the global temperature has been warming, we have seen new weather patterns. So for example, in agriculture, if you talk to our farmers now, they used to plant at a certain time in the year and the rains would come at a different time in the year, like we should be in the dry season now, it's raining. So things are changing and you have to come up with ways to mitigate. Let's take the tourism sector, for example. You have energy efficient equipment that they could use that will lower the cost of, let's say, energy. Now, with a facility like this, what it allows the DFC to do, it allows it to lend to these small operations without taking land collateral. So it's a beautiful thing because we can lend at lower interest rates. We don't require collateral because we have the partial guarantee that's under the fund. And what it does for the entities, with an energy efficient project, you save. And so by saving, it creates the cash flow to pay. So it's a really win-win situation on all parts. In the bigger scheme of things, what it allows Belize to do is to stimulate sustainable investment where we're moving the country towards the path of going to net zero, which is beneficial for the environment and for human life.
What does trust have to do with economics? The Inter-American Development Bank says it is everything. The IDB's latest report focuses on the lack of trust in Latin America and the Caribbean in post-pandemic economic recovery. Their conclusion is that strong trust will power a strong rebound. However, weak levels of trust undermine growth and innovation across both the public and private sector. The IDB is calling for key reforms, honing in on the need for equality in the sharing of power and information, since Latin America and the Caribbean rank extremely low in the trust chart, with only 12% of the region's population feeling they can trust others. The IDB study reveals that high-trust countries tend to have higher productivity levels, while low-trust countries have larger informal economies as a percentage of GDP. Eric Parado, IDB's chief economist, says the report offers a way for governments to harness the support they need to tackle not just the pandemic recovery, but structural issues such as lagging productivity and big challenges like climate change, diversity, and inclusion. History buffs may be interested in a new book published on the study of land and property in Belize. It's called The Origins of Colonial Order in Belize in 19th and 20th Centuries, and it was written by Odile Hoffman. She was the director of the French Center for Mexican and Central American Studies in Mexico, as well as a geographer. In particular, Hoffman specializes in Latin American and the dynamics of land politics and culture, particularly in Mexico, Colombia, and Belize. According to a joint release from the Mexican Embassy and Cubola Publications, Origins of a Colonial Order is the first real study of the transformation of the earth in this area into territory and property. The volume includes case studies of land politics in the Corozal, Orange Walk, and Toledo districts. Up next, you take care of their colds and flu. But are you prepared to deal with a child with COVID? News 5 speaks with parents who have been there.
What is the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine? The Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine is an RNA vaccine that triggers our immune system to develop antibodies against the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. It helps to reduce hospitalization, severity of the disease, and death. What is the Pfizer vaccine made of, and is it safe? The Pfizer vaccine is made up of mRNA messenger ribonucleic acid, which are molecules that carry the genetic information needed to make proteins, lipid, salts, and sugar. It is safe for persons 12 years and older and does not contain the COVID-19 virus, hence cannot cause infection. Tests have shown that the vaccine is effective against current virus variants. Who should take the Pfizer vaccine? The Pfizer vaccine should be taken by persons 12 years of age and older who do not have severe allergic reaction after a previous dose of vaccine or have not had severe allergic reaction to any ingredient of this vaccine. 2 doses of the vaccine are required 3 weeks apart. If you are between the ages of 12 and 17 years, you are required to present a signed consent form before you are vaccinated. What are the side effects of the Pfizer vaccine? Some common side effects of the Pfizer vaccine are headache, fatigue, muscle pain, fever, chills, and swelling at the injection site. If side effects persist, contact your doctor as soon as possible. Does the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine prevent infection and transmission? No, vaccination alone does not prevent infection and transmission. We are still required to continue to wear masks properly, physically distance, wash and sanitize hands often, practice proper coughing and sneezing hygiene, and avoid crowds.
The ministry is collaborating with SpeedNet Communications to have a vaccination campaign for children ages 12 to 17 years. Children who get vaccinated will get a chance to win fabulous prizes, including backpacks with supplies, Nintendo Switch, tablets, book tuitions, and MiFi with 3 months data. Only children 12 to 17 years old can participate in this Smart and Ministry of Health and Wellness raffle. At vaccination sites, each vaccinated child, upon being vaccinated, will receive a ticket to place their name, age, date of birth, BHIS number, and contact information on, which will be filled out by a parent or legal guardian. The sooner a person vaccinates, the more chances he or she will have to win. Get vaccinated, Belize! Vaccination saves lives.
Connecting people. Creating memories.
Hey guys, so here we are at the Glaze House Kitchen. I just prepared this amazing broccoli.
Sharing a smile. NextGen, the ultimate digital experience.
There may be nothing worse than worrying about a sick child. But over the past few months, that is exactly what healthcare workers and families all over Belize have had to do with the increase in pediatric COVID cases. In tonight's episode of COVID Chronicles, News 5's Dwayne Moody introduces you to a pediatrician and to parents who talk about their experiences and offer some advice for those dealing with a child who has COVID.
Your kids are accustomed to seeing a doctor dressed in, I don't know, a shirt and a short pants or long jeans or whatever may be the case. And right in the COVID unit, we're all gowned up. Everything is white and you can only see the eyes. So, and most of them, when they see us, they start to cry. It's something you expect. So what we try to do, have some jokes with them, ask them some questions they like. We try to entertain them, try to be more friendly to them, not just go in and listen and what's not. No, we try so that they can know that we're there for them, trying to help them.
Dr. Maxwell Schiller is the acting head of the pediatric unit of the Carl Hushner Memorial Hospital. Beginning in December, the healthcare facility has seen the largest number of pediatric COVID cases since the pandemic began in the country back in March of 2020. But caring at home for children who have tested positive for COVID is no walk in the park, especially if they are just under the age limit for the vaccine. Your options for prevention may be limited.
My youngest son is 11 and he doesn't qualify for the vaccine yet. He was prepared to go and get it. He's dying to go and get it. But unfortunately, we caught COVID before we had that chance. And for him, it physically affected him the most. He had the most symptoms. He had the highest fever. But also, I noticed mentally, he was stressed out about it as well. The first night when his fever was so high, I didn't even want to check it. I just knew what I had to do to get it to come down. He said that he didn't want to go to sleep because he was afraid of what was going to happen to him if he went to sleep. So he's the first one in our family to have had it.
Like Carla Ayers Musa, Christy Powell and her entire family also contracted the virus. For Powell's daughter, however, her bout with COVID was a different experience. She had no symptoms, but unfortunately had to be confined to her room and couldn't play or visit with family and friends.
We were one of the first set of individuals that tested before our first wave. So it was, from the beginning, it was very traumatic for all of us because the stigma that was then at that time, even being at the clinics, it was horrible, like, stay far away, don't come, just come when we're ready to test. Her first instinct, when she had to get swabbed, you had to prep her and tell her, you have to get swabbed. We can't run from it. It's going to hurt, but you got to be brave. You have to be strong, and you do it. So we got tested. We waited our 7 days at the time, and we found out that we were positive. Now, when we went home, it was a little bit difficult because the three of us, we tried to separate ourselves in different rooms. So you're not able to console each other. We did our home remedies.
Both mothers speak of the toll that COVID-19 has had on their children.
We were in it for about 14 days. My older son probably a little bit longer because he tested positive later. He got it last, and so his stress was, oh, why did I have to get sick last? And now we can't do anything, we can't go anywhere. That also played a huge role on them. During COVID, we haven't been going anywhere really. They might go visit their cousins and play ball with their friends, but with things being so restricted, they haven't been able to do that. We think that our children aren't listening. We think that they don't know, but it's all over the news. It's all over whatever social media, whatever games they're playing with their friends. People are dying from COVID, people are in the hospital. So that really had a big impact on him. My husband did his part too, of course. I'm sure most dads do. But it is, typically does fall on the mother. And so it becomes this very exhausting thing.
Dr. Schiller tells parents to do the best they can and stay calm.
The most important part, or the most important thing, is to keep calm. Do not panic, all right? Because our pediatric cases are more likely to be mild or moderate, most of the time mild. Okay, so that means that you won't panic and you will say, oh my God, my kid have COVID, I want to get frightened, I want to do this. No, keep calm. Behave as you behave as normal as you can be around him. Always make sure you use your mask if your child is COVID positive, and hydrate.
I think the biggest thing for me was that I couldn't panic. And when you see a very high fever, or my older son who had a terrible cough and couldn't catch his breath and felt like he was going to throw up, I have to be very calm, even though inside I'm terrified. You know, it's the middle of the night and we're sick, and you know, you can't just, it's not as easy to rush out to the hospital when you have COVID. So managing those things, I had to just remember that the doctors were telling me what I had to do. We were doing everything we had to do, and so just to try to be as calm as possible so that the kids could feel calm and safe.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5police.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.